Who taught you to be a good person? Who could teach you to be a good person? Where would you look? You might think that your parents taught you to be a good person. You might have a role model in mind, like you, like in this girl. Let's start out assuming that in your case, your parents did, in fact, make you a good person. Even so, if we remove our own experience, we find out that there are other possible outcomes. So not only can a good person come from good parents, a good person can come from bad parents, and a bad person can come from good parents. So if it's possible to teach someone to be a good person, how can somebody who is a good person fail to teach their children to be good people? In the dialogue, Socrates uses the example of people who have a reputation for wisdom, people who are wealthy and successful in society. The most recognizable example Socrates uses is Pericles, the Athenian politician, and it goes a little something like this. Or take Pericles, a man of such magnificent wisdom. You know that he brought up two sons, Pericles and Xantippus. You also know that he taught them to be as good a horseman as any Athenian, that he educated them in the arts, in gymnastics, or else that was a matter of skill, not to be inferior to anyone. Now, all of the examples that Socrates gives are negative. Now, it's perfectly obvious that there must be positive instances where a good child has come from a good father, but all of these examples are a good father with bad children. So the way Socrates is behaving here, it makes it look like he is being critical. He's criticizing these people. And the person that he's talking to, Anytus, is also one of these bad sons of a good father as well. And so Anytus gets angry and he storms off. Now, there's something very funny about what Socrates is doing here, because he's being a hypocrite. So if we were to insert Socrates into the scenario, we would end up with the same conclusion. Socrates also had children, I think 3 boys. Now, who has ever heard of any of their names before? Who has ever heard about how his sons were philosophers of the same quality as their father, or better, or even close? No. Yeah, so Socrates he's hiding his own weakness to the argument that he's using against these other people. It's not only Socrates' sons either. It looks even worse for Socrates, because he also has a bad track record with his followers. So some of Socrates' own followers, these young men that he's always conversing with, some of them end up being bad people. Alcibiades is the most obvious example of that. He was a double agent in the Peloponnesian War and a traitor, and etc. Socrates is a prime historical example of a good human being. And yet even he has a pretty high failure rate. And yet here he is appearing to criticize these other men for their lack of success at teaching their sons